strategist messaged me on Slack. They said our client requested a full Google Ads strategy deck for a 4th of July promo campaign. They wanted campaign structure, ad copy, keyword targeting, and recommended budgets. That typically would have eaten into my afternoon. Today, I connect Claude to Slack, and 80% of the deck is built in under 10 minutes. The other 20%, that comes from me. Let me show you the whole thing. Most strategy decks follow the same template every time. Now, the inputs change, but the actual strategy and overall framework stays pretty consistent when you're looking at most D2C or CPG brands when it comes to a Google Ads strategy or even a Meta Ads strategy. Now, depending on the size of the brand, whether they're doing one-time versus subscriptions, there's a lot of different variables at play. However, 90% of the time, you're going to use a pretty similar framework for a lot of these different brands. Now, the old way is a client requests this to come through. We spend an hour, maybe 2 hours building out the strategy, then building out a brand specific deck. With this new way, Claude builds the framework and then the strategy calls are still mine, whether we need to tweak them for a larger brand or say a smaller brand, or whether adding in subscription or a different type of promo. But 80% of that overall deck is already built with the strategy. There are two pieces. That's it. Slack connects directly to Claude through the Slack integration. Then Claude can actually pull that request directly in Slack from the Claude chat. Once that's done, you tell Claude what to build and the format for that specific brand, and that's it.
So here we're looking at the Blaze Beverages Slack channel. You'll see Joey M said, "Hey Joey, Blaze Beverages wants a 4th of July Google Ads strategy deck. The goal is to drive D2C revenue and new customer acquisition over the holiday window. Our budget is in the 25 to 40K range. Flight runs from June 23rd to July 7th. Can you build the strategy deck so it is client facing?" Now, typically that's going to take around an hour, maybe a little over an hour to build out what the strategy looks like and then really create the deck from scratch so that it's client facing. And what Claude allows us to do is connect directly to that Slack integration and really take a lot of the time out of this for us. So it's about 80% of the way there. So what I'll do is I'll read the Slack message and then I'm actually going to go into Claude here. And I'm already connected to the Slack integration, but let me know if you have any questions about that. I can set up a separate video and you'll see my prompt here at the top. Can you please pull the request from Joey in the Blaze Beverages Slack channel? Then build out a client-facing Google Ads strategy deck based on that request, branded for Blaze Beverages. Now, what Claude's going to do, without me having to copy and paste the actual message from Slack into Claude, is it's going to go directly to Slack, look at what Joey said, pull that request, and then start to build out the overall strategy. Now, I've got some context files for Blaze Beverages in here, so it's got a lot of the memory of what our Google Ads typical strategy is, some context on the client, and that helps out a lot with all the different brands when you're looking to skip a lot of the initial work with the prompting. So you'll see it says, I'll pull Joey's request from Slack channel, got the request, the brand Blaze Beverages, the ask 4th of July Google Ads strategy deck client facing. It's looking for D2C revenue, budget 25 to 40K, flight June 23rd to July 7th, which matches what we're looking at from here, which is awesome. Very exciting. So then what it does is it's going to build out the PowerPoint, which you'll then move into Google Slides. And you'll see it takes a little bit of time as I'm scrolling down here to look at all of that. And what's cool is now when we go to the actual deck, you'll see Google Ad Strategy for July 4th. The campaign overview, one of the key points we want to make sure was included is what the campaign overview looked like, the different goals that we have specifically around revenue, new customer acquisition, how is that judged using ROAS efficiency. Then it actually goes into the campaign structure and the investment allocation for each different campaign, what the overall keyword targeting and keyword strategy is going to look like, the ad copy. And I won't go super in depth on the actual Google Ad strategy. Again, this is for the purpose of the video, but you'll see it does break it down in a really methodical way when you're looking at campaign to then the overall structure, keywords, and ad copy, which is awesome. From here, I would say, okay, is there a different percentage of allocation we want here, or maybe a different keyword, or maybe one we don't want to include, but those are very minor tweaks, right? That's the 20% of the strategy that we're able to QA, again, just saving us so much time here.
This works because the framework is consistent amongst most CPG and D2C brands. The overall structure stays the same, but the inputs are what changes depending on, like I mentioned earlier in the video, the size of the brand, if there's specific nuances with their overall business, but 80% of it's going to be pretty consistent. That's what is repeatable, and that's what AI is really good at. You're not starting from scratch every single time. When you think about the amount of time it takes to build that full deck in a branded format, it does take a lot longer. The deck gets built in about 10 minutes. Say you spend another 10 to 15 minutes QAing, updating the strategy, then you're pretty good to go all in about 30 minutes. Previously, that would take me about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour to manually edit and update the deck for each client. That's the real shift. AI is not substituting this work. It's complementing your work, making you more efficient and adding more repeatable processes. So you're still the brains behind the strategy, but you're able to scale up your actual output here. Prompt is in the description. Take it and adapt it to some of your own brands. I'd love to see what you come up with. Subscribe if you want weekly practical AI workflows, and let me know if you want to see this version for Meta, as it gets really cool when you start to add in creative to it.